What's good with the YouTube, a convict's perspective, sliding through, smashing through like always, your boy Flaco with my co-host Senor Rojo, sliding through as always with a whole lot of energy, man. What's cracking?
What's up, Big Flox? How you doing today, my man?
What's good with you, man? You already know, man. Gonna drop some content real quick, and we're gonna be talking about Pelican S.H.U.
Man, that place is a nightmare. I hated it. You know what I got going on today, though? It's a brisket day. Doesn't it seem like a brisket day to you? All right, man. This is what we got. I was doing some research yesterday, trying to send something told me to look up the menu to see if I could find the damn menu of how they fed us in there. And I found it, man. I got lucky and I found it. I found the little commissary list. And you know what bothered me, bro? Real quick before we start. Bro, on their new commissary list that I seen, man, you could get photo ducats, unlimited amount of regular soups. And what else did I see that I was lightweight bothered? Oh, they can go $55. When I was there, $35. Forget about a photo ducat. You could get 9 cup of noodles, the cup of soups. And what they did is they opened them sons of bitches up and they poured them all into a paper bag, all 9 of them. So you had one dry ass paper bag with your seasoning all in the bottom. You were never sending a photo to your family. You could forget about that. And I'm not salty, bro. I'm glad that they get to do that. You should be able to send a photo to your loved ones, bro. You know what I mean? It's like, you already got me in prison for 1. You already got me in prison inside of a prison inside of a prison for 2. Like, man, let me send my people a picture. You know what I mean?
I think under the Title 15, the CDR S.H.U assessments, I think currently the longest you can stay in the S.H.U is what, 36 months or 48 months, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It's something to that extent.
Yeah, I know Tibbs and DC and them were locked down like in Tehachapi, I want to say, prior to Pelican Bay's being open and ready to receive inmates. And shit, they didn't leave until what, 03, when that indictment came down. Black Widow, when was it? 02, 03, 04, right in there when they went to Rita.
2001.
Bro, they were stuck in that motherfucker, bro. I can't even imagine. But I found this article when I was looking through all the stuff. I put up some pictures of the menus and all that kind of stuff on our members and on Instagram. And I found this article and it kind of breaks down really well the what it's like. And you know, this features Pelican Bay, but it's about solitary, in general. And I'll get right to it, man. Conservative estimates say that there are more than 25,000 inmates serving their sentences in solitary confinement in 40 states. Most have been there for more than 5 years. They live in small cells with no human contact, no TV, radio, or other mental stimulation. One thing real quick, in Pelican Bay, you can have a TV, and if you're poor, broke, whatever, and you're not a nuisance to the staff, they'll give you what's called a floater, and a floater is essentially a TV that was left behind by somebody who paroled or donated their TV upon their release for situations like this. You know what I mean? They won't give it if you're in there banging on your door and being disrespectful, forget about it. You know, and if you got a heinous crime, you're not getting nothing. Anyway, the use of solitary confinement has become widespread in the US prisons over the past 2 decades, but its use actually dates back more than 180 years, from the Quaker philosophy that inspired the practice to its prevalence today. Where we at? Associate Warden Larry Williams is standing inside a small cement gray cell. Everything is gray: concrete, bed, walls, unmovable stool, everything except the combination stainless steel sink and toilet. You can't move more than 8 feet in one direction. Prison is a deterrent, Williams said. We don't want them to like being in prison. The cell is one of 8 in a long hallway. From inside, you can see anyone or any of the other cells. This is where the inmate eats, sleeps, and exists for 22.5 hours a day. He spends the other 1.5 hours alone on a small concrete yard with access to the shower if he chooses. This is the security housing unit, or the S.H.U, pronounced S.H.U, just like you wear on your feet, at Pelican Bay State Prison in Northern California. With more than 1,200 inmates, it's one of the largest and oldest isolation units in the country, and it's the model that dozens of other states have followed. Although all the inmates are in isolation, there's lots of noise. Keys rattle, toilets flush, inmates shout to each other from one cell to the next. Twice a day, officers push plastic food trays through the small portals in the metal doors. The doors are solid metal with little dime-sized holes punched throughout. One inmate, known as Wino, is standing up on just behind. Let's start this over. This is how it's written. One inmate known as Wino is standing on just behind the door of his cell. It's difficult to make eye contact because you can only see one eye at a time. I've got my paperwork, my books to read, my little odds and ends, he says, pointing to the small items carefully organized throughout his cell. Wino fears he'll get in trouble for talking. He asks that NPR not use his real name. Wino is a 40-something man from San Fernando, California. He was sent to prison for robbery. He was sent to the S.H.U for being involved in prison gangs. He's been in this cell for 6 years and counting. The only contact you have with individuals is what they call a pinky shake, he said, sticking his pinky through one of the little holes in the door. This is the only personal contact Wino has had in 6 years. There are 5 other hallways like this one in what the prison officials here call a pod. The hallways shoot out like spokes on a wheel. In the center, high off the floor, an officer sits at a panel of blue and red buttons controlling the doors. The officer in the booth can go an entire shift without actually seeing an inmate face to face. Far below, the inmate walks a few feet from his cell through a metal door at the end of the hallway and out into the yard. The exercise yards at Pelican Bay are about the length of 2 small cars. The cement walls are 20 feet high. On top is a metal grate, and through the grate is a patch of sky. Associate Warden Williams says they don't allow inmates to have any kind of exercise equipment. Most of the time they do push-ups, or what they do are military exercises known as burpees. Some of them just walk back and forth for exercise. We don't allow them to have any type of balls, or I don't know what you call it, any kind of activity in here. It's just basically to come out, stretch their legs, and get some fresh air. Inside the S.H.U, there's a skylight 2 stories up, but on an overcast day, it's dark, and so are the cells. Most days in this area of the coast are overcast. There are no windows here. Inmates will not see the moon, stars, trees, or grass. They will rarely, if ever, see the giant gray building they live in. Their world, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year, is this hallway. There are 132 hallways at Pelican Bay, just like this one, and they are all full. More than 40 states operate facilities like Pelican Bay. Inmates aren't sent here by judges or juries. No prisoner is sentenced to isolation. It makes absolutely no difference what crime you committed on the outside. It's how you behave on the inside that counts, and every state has different rules for how you get here. In some parts of the country, the decision belongs to a small group of state officials. In other states, it's up to the warden. Prison officials at Pelican Bay say the 1,200 inmates here are in segregation because since arriving in prison, they have been the most violent, dangerous inmates in California. The intent is to monitor, to control, and to isolate, says Lieutenant Steve Perez, who has worked at Pelican Bay for 17 years. This is in response to their behavior. That's why you have facilities like this. Each month, officers squeeze soap, shampoo, and toothpaste into paper cups for the inmates. They are issued a jumpsuit, but in 2 days at the facility, there doesn't seem to be a single person wearing one. All of them are wearing their boxers, white boxer shorts, t-shirt, and flip-flops. You find yourself being by yourself, and sometimes you don't like what you see, said one inmate named Jason, a young-looking 39-year-old from Sacramento. 4 years ago, Jason violated his parole on a robbery charge and was sent to prison. A few months after he arrived, prison officials suspected he was involved in a prison gang and sent him to isolation. He's been in the S.H.U ever since. A lot of guys go crazy, really. And sometimes I ask myself, am I losing it too? Jason says behind small cell door holes. It breaks you psychologically, right? People do develop phobias. You start thinking people are talking about you when they're not. When inmates do go crazy, there is another part of the prison for them, the psychiatric S.H.U. In the psychiatric S.H.U at Pelican Bay, one inmate stands in the middle of a cell hollering at no one in particular. Another bangs his head against the cell door. Many of the inmates are naked, some exposing themselves intentionally. The psychiatric S.H.U is full, all 128 beds. 1 in 10 inmates is segregated. 1 in 10 inmates in segregation is housed here. There's even a waiting list. Lieutenant Steve Perez points to the board outside the unit where little markers display some of the psychiatric problems of inmates held there. Here we are with Vic, indecent exposure. He's got to be in a jumpsuit. Nicholas, he's on razor restriction. This guy Flores, staff assault through the food port. The board said 1 inmate had his shoes taken because he kept kicking the cell door over and over. Lieutenant Troy Woods works in the psychiatric S.H.U. He says they treat mental illness by monitoring the inmates and sending them to what he and the others call group therapy. It consists of a small room with 6 phone booth-sized cages. Depending on what the group is, they'll either listen to music, watch movies, play games, have art, current events, a lot of different types of groups. There are no therapists in group therapy. Wood says the idea is to help inmates socialize with each other and behave normally again. Normal for these prisoners means they don't smear feces on themselves or throw urine at the officers. They shower when able, eat when told, and keep their cells clean. For the most part, when prisoners do achieve this, the reward is returned to the regular S.H.U. Experts say it costs $50,000 more a year to house these inmates in isolation, regular or psychiatric. But if you ask prison officials in this state why they need facilities like this, they have one answer: to control the prison gangs. Outside in the yard, hundreds of prisoners from general population are playing basketball games, exercising and crowding around cement tables. On this day, without exception, every inmate is divided by race or gang membership. You've got your white group over there on the dip bar. You've got your Southern Mexicans. They're always on the table, that one table. You have your blacks, Lieutenant Steve Perez says, looking out onto the yard. Prison officials like Perez say a lot of crimes happen on the yard right in front of them. Right now, business is being conducted, Perez says, pointing to a group of prisoners gathered on the yard. There's gambling that's going on, drugs that are being used and sold. Assaults, stabbings, and attacks on staff are weekly occurrences here. 2 former gang members sit at a table in the yard long after most other prisoners have been sent back inside. They're kept separate because they recently left the gang. Because they fear for their life, they ask that the NPR not use their real names. They say the gangs run the prisons. If they keep killing people, you are going to do what they tell you to do, out of fear, out of self-preservation, one of the inmates says. If you're 90 days at the house and a gang member tells you, you go stab that dude right there, or go back in and stab your cellie out of self-preservation, you are going to do what you are told, because if you don't, you're going to be killed. Associate Warden Larry Williams acknowledges that prison gangs are an enormous problem that prison officials do not have control over. Every time we pluck one out, a new one pops up. Officials say 70% of the inmates in California's prison are in some way affiliated with prison gangs. When asked whether the gangs control Pelican Bay, Williams says, "The biggest part of me wants to say no, but you know, prisons only run with the consent of the inmates, and that's all the inmates. The administration and the officers do have control of the prisons, but there are times when you lose the control." Associate Warden Larry Williams says it's been this way since the 1980s, when the number of inmates exploded and rehabilitative programs disappeared. The gangs filled the void left from increasingly tense conditions and utter boredom. California's answer to the S.H.U was and is the S.H.U. Even locked in isolation, some inmates have managed to find ways to kill each other and assault staff. On a recent afternoon, a half dozen officers spent an entire day tearing apart the cells in one hallway, searching desperately for a metal binder clip they believe one of the inmates was hiding. Officer Buchanan discovered the paper fastener hidden inside a crack in the concrete wall. It had been sharpened into a deadly point. In the cell next door, Sergeant France held up a couple staples she found. They used these staples, they sharpened them to a point, wrap paper around them real tight and make a spear out of it. It will go through the perforations on the cell. They can spear someone with it. Lieutenant Steve Perez explains that inmates pull out elastic from their underwear and braid it into a kind of super-powered bow to fire their weapons. They can project a spear coming out of there at 800 square pounds per foot. And 800 pounds per foot into your neck, it'll drive that right in there.
800 square pounds per foot. You really believe that?
Man, I mean, they got mechanisms that could test it, man. But I mean, did they really go through that?
That's right.
I mean, they may have had some like dropout type dude, whoop up a crossbow for them, and they might have tested it, and they would do that just to come up with new gear that they could wear to prevent being injured by it. Maybe.
I've shot arrows. You already know. It does 800 square pounds up. Sounds like a lot of pressure.
I can make some dope stuff, bro. I can make some really, really dope crossbows, bro. And I would even say someone who could make it twice as good as me, it's not doing that.
Exactly.
But man, who knows, bro? I highly doubt it, man. I mean, I own a real crossbow that has a 155-pound pull, and it's way different than anything I've ever made. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't buy it. At 800 pounds per foot into your neck, it'll drive right in there. And now we've got to go in there. And what does he have on it? Does it have feces, HIV? Does he have herpes, TB, hepatitis? And that's not unusual. Prison officials say that removing the most dangerous gang members and putting them in segregation makes regular prisons safer for the rest of the inmates, and it weakens the gangs. But Jim, a 38-year-old S.H.U inmate from Long Beach, says that's wishful thinking. He says that to gang members, being sent to the security housing unit is an honor. Coming up here was the big thing, Jim says from inside the cell. Put in work, come up here, be with the big homies, because this is the only place you're going to be around the fellas, you know? Jim says gang leaders still control the gangs from within the S.H.U, mostly by mailing each other letters. And he says if you show up to prison and don't join a gang of your race, you'll be a target for the other gangs within days. When there's a war, there's a war. You're a target just because of the color of your skin, so you might as well. You're going to have to defend yourself. The lines get divided, and you have to take sides. That's just how California prison is. Jim was sent to prison 10 years ago for armed robbery. Several years later, he was put in segregation for assaulting other prisoners when he joined a prison gang called the Nazi Lowriders. It's definitely racist, Jim says, but he says he wasn't racist before he came to prison. Prison made me that way. My mom and dad taught me to respect everybody no matter who it was. It's funny because I still remember to this day my dad telling me, you respect every man until he proves differently. There are really only two ways out of Pelican Bay S.H.U. Either you have to prove to prison officials that you have not been involved in gang activity for 6 years, which is rare, or you have to tell everything you know about your gang. It's called debriefing. It can sometimes take 2 years. That's what Jim is trying to do now. But it has a cost. Jim says he's already been warned through the grapevine that if he gets out of the S.H.U, he's a dead man. But after 7 years in isolation, Jim says he doesn't care anymore. A place like this is designed to drive you crazy. It's not just designed to isolate you from general population. It's designed to break you. It sucks. It's hard. It's made me different. It's made me spiteful. Associate Warden Williams says that without the S.H.U, the gang problem would be even worse. But after almost 20 years, California is now holding more inmates in solitary confinement than it ever has. And its gang problem is worse than it ever has been before. And over the years, the violence rates at Pelican Bay have actually gone up. Williams says he worries a little that segregation could be making the inmates worse. I can't totally disagree that it may affect the inmates in some kind of way. It may make them mad for a while. But the benefit of these security housing units is that we take the people who go out there and cause the trouble and we lock them up here to get them off the main lines so that it can function the way it's designed to, and the way we would like it to, and the way the inmates would like it to. Almost 95% of the inmates in Pelican Bay S.H.U are scheduled to be released back into the public at some point. They'll spend a few weeks in a local prison before rejoining society with little, if any, preparation for how to live around people on the outside. And for every other inmate that leaves, there is another one waiting to take his place.
Interesting article, brother. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
couple things that before I want to kind of touch on, man, that just first in listening to this article, I think that whoever the journalist is that wrote this article, I think they tried to be impartial and unbiased, but I still think they lean more on the administrative side because I don't think they took into account the seriousness of the mental health part into the equation.
Laura Sullivan, and it's part of the KQED NPR.org.
Okay, yeah, they're pretty impartial to all sides.
They try to be, yeah.
But it just seems like they got a lot of their information from the administrative. If you need associate warden this, we're only going to sell one narrative. They talk to the inmates, but the majority of the inmates that they talked to were already probably inactive.
Yeah.
And so when I hear the part, first of all, I heard the part about 90 days to the house being asked to do a removal. I know most groups think the same way. And I know our group does. Either one, you owe cleanup, or two, you're obligated.
Yeah.
So if you take that step, people forget. It kind of started to upset me, man, because I remember the Nuestra Raza whole motto was to be the first line of defense for the people. It was an honor to go over there and sacrifice your stay, yourself, catch time, regardless of the situation, as an NR Soldado. Throughout the years, that started to change, and everybody started to pass the buck to the next man because there's enough people out there that want to raise their hand. So when I hear that, 90 days to the house. They wanted me to do a removal. Well, you must have did something or you were obligated to do something.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you put yourself in that position, of course you're going to be asked, man. So I caught that, man. But you know, the overall, like I said, we did the end all hostilities. You know what I mean? Whatever I think personally of, like I said, the goals of these organizations, the goals of these gangs, whatever you want to classify them as, clubs or whatever. You know, we know what the purpose is to be out there on these main lines, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're entitled to those same rights, I feel, as any other inmate.
100%. I agree.
Being a gang member, whatever you are, doesn't mean that you're deprived of the same rights as any other man. And so this is always, you know, how much safer were the yards? You know what I'm saying? Without these guys out there. Well, now you're having a lot less gang on gang violence, right? You're having a lot more whackings inside the cell, and they're house cleanings. They're all political moves. But
Yeah.
you're no longer hearing about yards getting off over here, over there. So there's been some changes in it, man. So you know, when I hear it, man, it makes me remind myself of all those years I did in the S.H.U and ADSEG, man, and some of the most oppressive and tormented environments I've ever experienced. You know, I did time in about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 8 different ADSEGs. And not one of those locations ever treated us the way we were supposed to. I could say San Quentin was pretty close, you know, but as you're reading this, right, I'm starting to remember just having group yard before we got to the S.H.U. I was thinking in my head, we were like, you know, like those when you see those science tests that they run with mice to get out to get to freedom. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's how I felt every time I was able to get into a bigger space, being oppressed in a confined environment. I never going to the 6-yard, man. Felt like you were going like you were at a carnival. You know what I'm saying? Like you were just somewhere, like, you know, it felt good to be out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then from going one place to the S.H.U, like Pelican Bay, you ain't got no yard. You ain't got no access to nothing. Same thing in Corcoran. Once they shut down the group yards, you went from one cage to another cage.
Yeah, man. I've been to Pelican Bay 4 times, bro. My first time, I think I've told this before. They sent me from Quentin up there with only either 44 or 45 days before I paroled. And I was in D facility. I want to say I was in D8, but I'm not 100%. It's been a long time. But there was no other homeboys in my pod. There was one dropout from Daly City named Angel, and it was boring as shit. I didn't have a TV, nothing. I was single celled. You know what I mean? I didn't have a cellie, but I was so short that I was just like, whatever. You know what I mean? But the next time I came back, it was for, you know, a substantial amount of time, bro. And I stayed so busy with Tibbs being next door and the responsibilities I had and whatnot that man, the thing with the S.H.U, bro, is if you don't have something to do, you don't have a hobby, or you don't have family to write, friends, or you're not part of something that keeps you busy, man, it can be extremely depressing. You know what I mean? Like me, I'm a go with the flow kind of guy, so I don't take too much really to heart, you know, but I'm fortunate in that because some people don't have that, you know, that mental, I don't want to say they're mentally weak, but they're more susceptible to that mental, you know, it really messing with their brains and stuff. I've seen a lot of people just start yelling, man. I've been in the pod with them for months, and then they just start screaming one day and come out with poop on them. You know what I mean?
It's like a drug addict. You know, some people get affected by drugs more than others.
Right. Yeah, some people can party on the weekends, and some people are out stealing shit every single night.
I mean, you know, some people that as soon as they hit the pipe, you know what I mean, they think people are chasing after them and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same thing with this. Everybody has a different breaking point. You know what I'm saying? And if you learn to occupy yourself, like I used to study, I used to do all kinds. I used to study languages. I learned like 3 different languages. I was pretty good at speaking, man. Studied philosophy. I studied the stock market. I did the same thing you did.
Yeah.
And I used to write down stocks. I used to get the newspaper and pick what I was going to buy, do research on what the companies were. And I had a whole graph, and I sent it to Silver. Silver was my pod, and he was like, "Wow." And I sent it to my neighbor Shotgun from 18th Street. He was a Sureño. He was actually, he was Jackal's secretary. Me and him became cool. He wanted me to actually Xerox everything I did and send it to him, so he could learn to play the stock market as well. So it's about how you do your time, but not everybody has those same interests. You mean not everybody has those same family support, and not everybody has a different, like I said, mental capacity of how much they can take. And that's where CDC has failed with these shoes is they tried to do this as far as unilateral, basically. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To where they think that everybody should be able to function on this level. Not everybody can, and their mental health, they dropped the ball. You know what I'm saying? Some of the things I see from people in there, and they just put people on medication. Next thing you know, they're looking like zombies. You know, mental health has is a big factor in solitary confinement, because as strong as we took it in the discipline that we built in ourselves, which is conditioning. See, our teachings and our training conditioned us to be able to adapt to different environments, to adapt to the oppression of the system. And we had a cause in ourselves of what we had to do to strive every day. When you take that out of the equation, it's going to affect you mentally.
Yeah, the people that had it worst, in my opinion, were those that had been ostracized from their own group, didn't have a celly, or didn't have a TV. You know, because the only way to really flourish in there, bro, is to have a what you call it, like a routine, something to keep you busy, something to keep your mind off of just the total lack of anything, bro. You know, because like I said, that 45 days, that real quick jolt I did in there, I had a TV. You know what I mean? I didn't have a TV. I didn't have a celly. Bro, it was just like, man, all I had to do was this. Right what I'm doing now. Just like, I'd do my push-ups, I'd write my letters. But man, for 23 hours a day, bro, it was just boring, bro.
For about a year, bro, I was by myself, not even a homeboy. And then finally I got something, then I got validated. Then when I got to the S.H.U, right, I was on a layover. So they moved me around from block to block all over, from 4A side to 4B side. And there was a couple times where I was with one or two homeboys. Next thing you know, they disappeared. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not even cleared. I don't know all the kind of codes to all the blocks because I just got there as a new arrival.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I actually ended up opening up the first gang validated block, and three left with Suave from Salinas, Chilo from Sajo, and I think nine from Sakura was there as well. Like all four of us, man. But it was like there's no other experience, man, when you're by yourself. So I get it. You know, it's a whole different element. As soon as you run into a homeboy, you're happy, you're excited. It's a whole different thing. You know, to do that just for 2-3 months, it took its toll on me. You know what I'm saying? You know, and I started like wanting interactions with people, but then the people that were around me were all my oppositions and enemies.
Right.
And this is a different time era. This is where you're common courtesy, but you're not over there holding conversations. You're not playing a game. You're not playing a chess game on the tier anymore. This is when these are different type of S.H.U environments. I mean, where we're trying to spear each other. I mean, people are throwing piss and all kinds of crazy stuff. Different era.
Yeah, the one example that comes to mind, man, is there was he was a Cuban dude. Me and Flaco from Santa Rosa came to C10 off of the 6-yard. You know what I mean? And there was other homeboys in there, but even though everybody knew who I was, you still got to be cleared. You know what I mean? They still got a right to whoever. So, for like the first 10 days we were there, we didn't really talk to nobody. It was cool though. We got a floater right away. Like 20 minutes after we got in the cell, they brought us a floater. It was cool. But I seen this Cuban dude, bro. He comes in, we look out for him. You know what I mean? He don't got no people in there. There's no others. You know what I mean? It's just homeboys or Southerners. You know what I mean? And he's like, hey, such and such. My name's Raul. I'm Cubano. You know what I mean? And man, we looked out for him, shot him some chinate, some hygiene. You know what I mean? Maybe a couple little something to munch on, whatnot. He was cool, like 3 or 4 months. How you guys doing? Da, 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 da. Man, one morning, dude, like 4 months into it, fucking, I'm all kinds of pinche, wedo, he called me familiana. You know what I'm saying? Like he just got on me talking about my pink donut and all kinds of stuff just out of nowhere. Yeah, donut. Bro, I'm mad as shit, bro, because man, I've been hooking him up. You know what I mean? Envelopes, shooting them little slivers of deodorant. You know what I mean? And then, man, just one morning, about 7 a.m, bro, we had just got done working out. And he just goes on a tirade for hours and then gets to kicking his door and flooding the tier and telling me what a bitch I am and how he was going to kill me. You know what I'm saying? I'm like,
I had a dude like that on the 4th floor, right? His name was C. He was a Don move from L.A. Right. I put a GL on him, right? Green light, because he was disrespecting us on the tier all the time,
Right.
our business and everything. But to try to pacify the dude, when he was calm, I would try to give him things like a shot of coffee just to keep him cool.
Right.
So finally, I cut him off because he kept on, he'd be cool one night and then he'd J-Cat off. You know what I'm saying? I guess he had issues with none other than your best friend, Dancing Bear, who had already put a G on him. So I was looking, I think I had Lucifer from Watsonville. He was going to figure out a way to pop his door to get this dude. And so I think somehow one of the dudes, I don't know how, it got breached somehow that we were going to move on the dude, man. But we were trying to keep cool, man, just to pacify them. I mean, sometimes you don't want them to attack you. You already know that they're a J-Cat. They're out there. You know what I'm saying? This dude just had degenerative acts. So it's a difference. You know what I mean? Some people just ain't all there psychologically, and they see what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So they want to include themselves in your business to try to try to bring attention on you. They're trying to impede your efforts. They're trying to block it. And that's how it is sometimes, man. Like, it's just, I don't know if it's hate. I don't know if they feel like they're not a part of something, or they're just straight J-Cats. It's hard to predict.
Yeah, it's in my experience, bro, the only people that I've seen like totally transform from normal, like me and you are sitting here talking, to they just lose it one night, man. Were two others, a Paisa and the Cuban, both single-celled, you know what I mean? And I'm sure in retrospect, they were probably single-celled for a reason, you know what I mean? They were probably in the S.H.U for some, they obviously weren't validated gang members. They were probably in there for some, J-Cat type stuff, you know what I mean? And, they had the ability to play it off for a while, but man, I see how it could happen. Fortunately, I was part of a group that kept you busy, and I consider myself pretty mentally strong, where, man, I don't care how long I'm going to be there, man. You're not going to break me.
I've seen homeboys. We had to deem homeboys no good for being J-Cat. So, you know what I'm saying? There's two of them. One of them, I'm not going to mention his name. He's from my town. He did a whole lot of time. He got deemed for that, man. Then a whole other individual, I ended up deeming no good, because he was talking about that they were using low frequency radio waves to play with his head on the tier. You know what I'm saying?
Bro,
So it's crazy, because and a lot of it has to do with some type of dope addiction, and I think there's some type of trigger. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't just have that your whole life. It has to be something that's created in you. I mean, I think for most people, what's that? Once you have that induced schizophrenia from drug usage out there, when you get into these isolated environments, there's always that trigger. Or some people, they're just can mentally snap and lose it just like that too. There's something that triggers it though, man. Some type of experience in their life that I think has to affect them. But we're not psychologists. We're just talking through personal experience, through people we talk to, through what we witnessed, man. But the S.H.U is real, man. The mental capacity for one's, competency to try to think and act normal, it's a struggle for a lot of people. Let's just keep it real.
Yeah.
And if anybody says that they did time in the S.H.U and that they came out the same as before they went in, they're full of fucking shit, man.
Yeah, no, it definitely has some effects for sure. There's no doubt about it. Some obviously going to be more than others. And I never got them big sentences, man. I've only been a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year type of dude, and I haven't had to stay there an extended period of time. And when I was there, I was so busy, I had nothing to think about but business, from the, my group's standpoint. So I've been pretty fortunate, but man, a lot of people were, before they kicked them people out, man, they were in there for double-digit years, and
it did create the narrative for people to debrief. They did that.
Yeah.
They tried to create a situation to force people to make that decisions. Let's take them far away from their homes. Let's take that personal contact, no phone calls. You know what I mean? That's just, you know what I mean? Like I said before, whatever I think about these organizations, you know what I mean, it's not my business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're trying to save lives, but like I said before, the end all hostility agreement and how they got out there, I'm all fully supportive. What they do with it, that's not my business. You know what I mean? I already know the get down. You know what I'm saying? I know that illicit activities are going to continue. It's all about money, but that's neither here nor there. I'm just saying that, as human beings, right, regardless of what you affiliate yourself with, unless you got those heinous crimes, I mean, we should all be treated with the same type of privileges and incentives. I go back to the bomb number one. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? These are the things that they strive to acquire. And now that those things are acquired, best of luck to these individuals. They're still pushing on in what they call this alleged struggle.
Yeah, I understand there needs to be a S.H.U. If you book somebody, you assault staff or whatever, you got to go sit down for a minute. That's great. But to leave you in there indefinitely and force you to tell, bro, that's unconstitutional. I mean, it took them a long time to figure out that it wasn't, and they should have known right off the gate that, you can't be punished by what you believe or what you think, as long as you're not assaulting anyone and you're just doing your thing. That's a terrible punishment, man. It's cool. Man, you could deal with it for a year. Most people can, but 15 years and you haven't done nothing to nobody. You're just, yeah, it's unfathomable that they allowed it to go on for as long as they did, bro. Because
Yeah.
I can't speak for Corcoran. You can, but Pelican Bay sucks, bro. Like even having a TV and I had the coolest celly in the world with Flacco, and Porky was cool too, and Wino was even all right, man. But
I'd rather not have a celly in the S.H.U, to be honest with you.
well, you better have a TV because you're gonna be bored.
I didn't. The first time I was there, I didn't even want a TV, but I thought I was Mr. Super Soldier, bro. I thought I was Mr. Super NR member back in the day. Just barely being recruited and fucking had about a stack of 20 different type of literatures. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought I was taking the game over, bro.
Just having a TV in the background, bro, because I mean, it changes your day, bro. I mean, at least they had the Fox News up there, which was the Bay Area news, so you could kind of stay in the loop of what's going on in society. You know what I mean? And I always had people to look out for me with money and correspondence and shit like that, man. Some people don't though, and that takes a toll.
That was the worst part, man. People don't realize is that commissary going $35 a month, and then having to kick down 25% to the casa.
We didn't do that in Pelican Bay where I was at. If somebody needed something, we'd get it for them, but there just wasn't enough to go around. Dude, you're perpetually hungry in Pelican Bay. Especially if you're next door to Tibbs and he wants to do 422 counts and they're giving you exactly like 1,800, 2,000 calories, whatever the Food and Drug Administration says you have to have legally.
Yeah.
Bro, you're hungry, dude. They only give you 9 noodles. Bro, you're in there hungry. I mean, maybe as I got older and my metabolism, I had the grown man metabolism, it might have changed. I might not have been starving, but man, there was only like a week out of the month where I felt like I had enough food to not disappear, bro. You know
what the worst part was is we used to make these dulces, right? Where we were told to save all our peanut butters, all our almonds, all our banana chips, all our cookies.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I'm starving as it is. And you want me to save all this? And then you save it. You have this big old cookie. It was good, right?
Yeah. Oh, put it on top of the light. Let it.
No, you'd basically get your brown paper bag and stuff. And then you smash all the cookies, the banana chips, almonds.
Yeah. Peanut butter. Yeah. We put them on top of the lights in the bay on wax paper. We had wax paper from something. I don't remember, but we put it up there and kind of let it warm up, man. And they'd get hard like a granola bar.
Yeah, we'd save. It'd be a big little issue, right? Like you'd be full. But man, I was thinking, man, like I'm starving as it is. You're telling me that not to eat my peanut butter and jelly?
Yeah, I posted the menu in our members only chat. You know what in our members only page. It's like
that's not all though. We're also saving all the apples and juices back then too.
Yeah, and I remember when Pelican Bay lets you get a 1-pound box of sugar cubes. That was a horrible mistake. And they were giving us grapefruits. Bro, we'd be in there trashed. Lucho Montalvo from Hayward, the NF dude. He'd have us in there trashed. But they took that away real quick after too many people ran to the gun tower naked and stuff.
Anyways, I think we pretty much covered this topic pretty good, man. I think we went on for about 40 minutes, man. And just, besides this topic, we're giving you guys a little insight about the S.H.U, and we're breaking down different facets of it and experience, man. And I think Rojo feels the same way. The S.H.U is meant for people who commit certain crimes, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to sit them down for a while. But as far as the long-term, indefinite, indeterminate term, man, that was cruel and unusual punishment.
I agree 100%, man. That should be used for like terrorists and things of that nature. You know what I mean? But you could be on
death row and have more rights than you did when you were in the S.H.U.
I used to trip on that in Quentin. They'd have contact visits. Like that dude ate some people, bro, and he gets to have contact visits. All you do is say, I'm in a gang that I'm not even in yet. This dude done ate 3 people. Nah, what the hell? You know what I'm saying? Because you guys, oh, thanks, Miranda. You know, son of
Yeah.
a bitch. All right, man. Well, shit. Any of you guys got questions about Pelican Bay, man? Feel free to ask me, or if you got questions about Corcoran, man, ask Flacco, and we'll answer them as soon as we can.
BVI, Quinn
Yeah.
Moss, Salinas Valley,
Yeah.
New Folsom. I've been all kinds of places, guys.
Have a good rest of your guys' Thursday, man. Much love and respect. I'll holler at you later.